Hey guys, I'm Ethan Moore from Stockroom Supply. I'm standing in front of a couple Camvacs here. This is the wall mount version and the 4 horsepower 3 motor version here. Now, I consistently get a question on how these Camvacs compare to the Oneida Supercell. And the reason that people are comparing them is the Supercell and the Camvacs are kind of unique. They're really the only high pressure, low volume units out there, and what that means is they work on anything from 4-inch and smaller. So they're really kind of unique dust collectors, but they do have a number of differences. So anybody can look at a spec sheet online and see the differences. But I had a customer call who had a Supercell. His name is Ross Mitchell, and he has a very unique shop. It's a very small shop and very well insulated, which presented him with a couple unique challenges. And he was questioning me about the Camvac and how it would suit his needs. So he did have a Supercell, but I asked him, once he got his Camvac, he really worked well for him. I asked if he could make a video and kind of highlight how he was able to make the Camvac work and the differences he found between the Camvacs and the Supercell from someone that has had both in their shop. So yeah, here's Ross, and hope you enjoy it.
We're here at my shop in Stowe, Vermont. Hello, this is Ross Mitchell. I'm a wood turner, and I recently purchased a Camvac system from Stockroom Supply. This unit has worked out very well for me, and it replaces a previous unit that I had here, which was an Oneida Supercell, also a nice unit, very powerful, but there are a couple of things about it that ultimately it just didn't work out for me. The first is that it's very loud, screamingly loud, and the second is that it gives off a tremendous amount of heat. So I'm going to show you how, with this Camvac system and the way I have it set up, I have overcome both the issue of the noise and the heat. I'll start with a quick overview of the whole system. In my small shop, it's just this one trunk line that runs down this wall here. Starts with the bandsaw. Next is this blue hose on a reel here, and I use this as a vacuum which reaches all the way around the shop, as well as dust collection for some smaller hand tools. Next is the hose that goes to dust collection for the lathe itself. Next is this additional larger hose, which has this fitting on it, also a rockler item, and I can use this to pull across and port to some other tools. This table saw here, which ports out down below, as well as this planer and sander that pull up and out of the workbench for use. So then the system continues on down into this separator, an Oneida Dust Deputy, and then on up into the Camvac. Additionally, I have these switches here. This is a system to operate a remote control. It is a 2-part system sold as a kit by Stockroom Supply, pre-wired to work with this Camvac, and then it allows you to operate the unit with this remote controller here. Another item worth mentioning is there is a pressure release valve on here, also from Stockroom Supply, and I understand this is an important piece to have in any powerful dust collection system, because if by mistake you had all the gates closed at once, it could build up enough pressure to collapse this unit or some other part of the system. One other thing I'll point out is that, turning all the way around and looking up at the ceiling, I do also have this jet air purifier here, which, although it's not part of the primary dust collection system, I do think of it as an integral part of keeping the air clean in here. And it's very quiet, and it really does make a difference. You can feel the difference in the air quality when it's on or off. Regarding my concern about noise, this Camvac is way quieter than the Supercell unit that I had, and then I've taken some additional steps to make it even quieter still. The first is just by placing it inside a cabinet with a door that I can close. The second was lining the cabinet and the door with these sound-absorbing panels. And the third is this accessory that's available from Record Power, and it's these hoses that attach to the top of the Camvac, attached to these ports. Now the noise that this unit creates is of course from the motors, and that noise comes out through these ports, and if you attach these hoses, they have a muffling effect as the sound travels through the hose. It's a pretty quiet system, and most of the sound that you're hearing isn't actually even coming from the unit itself, rather just from the air being drawn into this dust collection port here. Regarding the heat, which was my other big concern, this Camvac does give off a similar amount of heat as to the Supercell that I had here, but with one very important difference. With the Supercell, the heat was dispersed all around the top of the unit. It just came blasting out all the way around with no real way to control it. But with the Camvac, the heat, along with the sound, comes out these ports in the top of the unit. Now in my case, it's a 3-motor unit, so there's 3 ports in the top. So these same hoses that can be used to muffle the sound can also be used to direct the heat. Before I talk about how I directed the heat, I want to talk a little bit about why it was important for me to be able to do so in this space. You know, both the Camvac and the Supercell, they really are like powerful space heaters, and when this space is closed up, either of them would raise the temperature in here 8 or 10 degrees in about 40 minutes, and it would just keep rising from there. Now, not so important in the spring and the fall when the doors and the windows are open, but in the summer, when it's in the high 80s or 90s, I use a window air conditioning unit, and the Supercell, and I'm sure it would be the same with the Camvac, gave off so much heat that it overpowered the air conditioner, and having the air conditioner at full blast just slowed the rate at which the temperature kept climbing in here when the dust collection system was on. Now, in the winter, this is an insulated space with radiant floor heat, which I keep at 65, and with the dust collection system running, again, when I was using the Supercell, and I'm sure it would be the same with the Camvac, it jumps up to 75 or near 80 pretty quick, which is just a little bit too toasty. So on to how I'm actually directing the heat in here. Once again, this unit that I have has 3 motors, thus 3 ports. Third is around the back. Yeah, you can see it there. So 3 ports and 3 hoses, and what I've done is I've created 2 sets of 3 ports exiting this cabinet space. Now these 3 over here go right out through the wall and expel the heat to the outside. Now I say the outside, it actually goes into a separate part of this building that is an unheated, uninsulated shed, so it's about the same as going outside. These 3 ports in the ceiling of this space recirculate the heat back into the shop. Now it may look like I'm sending that heat up into this cabinet that's above the unit, but actually there is a false back on that cabinet. So those ports are going into an open space back there, a channel that then also comes out the top. You'll notice this cabinet is set down a little bit from the ceiling. So once again, the air that is ported to the right goes outside and expelled from the shop. Any air or hoses that are attached to the ones in the back get recirculated in the shop. Now what this does is it allows me to sort of mix and match whether I'm going to recirculate or expel the air to maintain the temperature in here. What I have found, for example, on days like we've had recently where it's 20 degrees or below, having 1 hose or 1/3 of the heat that this unit produces get recirculated, and 2 hoses or 2/3 being expelled to the outside maintains the heat in here just fine. Now if I had 2 hoses or more going up into those ports, once again it would get overly warm in here, and conversely I wouldn't want to have all 3 hoses ported to the outside, because then the system is sucking in all the room temperature 65-degree air and porting it to the outside, and it would get colder in here. Here's one additional detail about how I assembled this. These ports that go out both the side and the top, they're just pieces of PVC that I've drilled through the wall and and placed in the wall. They're black because they've been wrapped in one wrap of tape, which increases that diameter just enough so that they're a nice tight fit when I put these hoses on. And also what you're seeing here is just these little corks that I use to block off the ports that aren't being used. That's about it for how I set up this system. It's pretty tightly engineered, but that's what I wanted. There are certainly simpler solutions. You could put this Camvac on wheels and roll it over by an open door window. What you can't quite see here, because they're all coiled up in there, these hoses are pretty long, and you could run them out of an open door or window. But this system, as I have it set up, has worked very well for me. If you have any questions about it, or if you want to talk about dust collection in general, or wood turning, or shops, by all means reach out by phone or text. Ross Mitchell, 512-633-0912.
Thank you so much, Ross, for making that video. It's excellent. Now, if anybody is curious, Ross has the 3-motor Camvac, the 4 horsepower unit. That is the most similar to the Supercell, the Oneida Supercell, as far as power goes. So yeah, if anybody else has any questions, you can email me at info@stockroomsupply.com or just comment on the video. Thanks for watching.